Yo, people, welcome back to DR Transfers. I'm your host to do the most and never coast, Matisse, in the building. Now, listen, we've got a lot to get through. Big up to the chat when you join. Listen, wow, I'm looking forward to all the news today because there's things starting to move. There's moving pieces. Obviously, the season is only just about over a week away. The Community Shield is this weekend as well, so the competitive football is on the horizon, and clubs are going to start panicking towards the end of the window for sure. You know, they're going to start making panic buys. They're going to start putting in bids and trying to do deals because, listen, this is what always happens. And we'll see who hasn't done their due diligence in their business and what happens. But we're just about over a month away from the deadline now. So things are going to start to pick up, I'm sure. I want to start off with, obviously, Koundé, as you can see on the thumbnail, he's confirmed to Barcelona. They got the here we go. He arrived. He's in the top. So that has pressed and pushed Chelsea to go for Wesley Fofana. Now, this is a very talented individual, very talented player. We saw that before his injury. He was brilliant. I remember in the cup final when Leicester won the FA Cup against us, he was really, really good. One of the best players on the pitch. Fantastic at what you need to be as a defender. You know, he's not one of these defenders that can't defend. He's a brilliant defender. Very young, of course. However, just signed a new contract at Leicester earlier this year. So I would be shocked. And it's very clear that they want to start negotiations from a ridiculously high price of around about 70 million. That's to start negotiations. And it's thought to be around 80 plus that they're going to want to do the deal at a minimum. And maybe that's including the add-ons. You know, maybe Chelsea can negotiate their way through this and try and do something at a lower initial fee and then go for add-ons afterwards to try and bring it up based on incentives. Maybe, put it on Premier League title wins or something. But Fofana is open to the move. He's interested in doing the deal if they can agree a fee. He wants to make things happen, which isn't too much of a surprise, of course. The only risk here that you're looking at is that he did just come off a massive, massive injury. And we know we've seen maybe 8-7 games or so of him last season, but not a huge chunk. It's a bit of a risk to spend that amount of money on a player that has just come back from a massive injury. But Chelsea put themselves in a position now where they're stressed and they don't know whether they should, go for a player like this who's extremely talented, has so much potential, but like I said, is coming off that injury. They have missed out on a lot of centre-back targets as well. So it's not really like they have too much options now in terms of high quality, high potential players. Now, as the window gets later on, clubs are going to push their fees up. They're not going to want to do business, and understandably so. So Chelsea, in this search for that last centre-back, are under a lot of pressure. But for me, I think Fofana is a very, very good player. It is a risk. I do think you need to be careful on the price. But in saying that, we don't have too much choices. And if he was to do a pecking order, he would be right up there. He'd be very high up on my list personally. I think he's a top talent. It's just the fact that, we ideally wouldn't want to have to spend that much money on somebody who's just come off a serious injury. Hopefully, he's going to be just fine next season and there's no issues, but you are taking a small gamble. So it's an interesting one, but we shall see how that progresses, whether Chelsea put in a bid. If they are serious, you'd expect them to put in a bid quite soon. They've done that for quite a few players when they've moved on to other targets. Koundé, we saw quick bids for Rafinha, etc. So if they are serious, then you expect a quick bid to come in. That's Koulibaly was done very, very quickly. But let's move on to Manchester City as well, because apparently, reportedly, they could abandon this deal for Cucurella, the Brighton Player of the Year. Now, they have been going back and forth on a fee constantly. It does appear that they haven't, they're struggling to agree. Maybe it's too much money. Now, Manchester City have turned over a massive profit this year. I mean, they must have made about 176 million on transfers or something like that. I think it's a Premier League record. So it's not like they're short of money. However, they're still trying to make sure that they get the best deal possible for Cucurella. There's talks that maybe this could be put off until next summer and instead maybe targeting someone else. There is an argument to say that they could go and get 2 left backs in 2 years. They don't really have any actual left backs on the books. We saw Cancelo play there. We saw, Nathan Ake could fill in, but they don't actually really have any left backs on the books. So they could go for 2 for 2 in the next couple of windows. And they've been linked with Ronaldo from Benfica and also Stuttgart's Sosa as well, the Croatian left back. And both of those players have been, Ronaldo is an old name. If you remember him, he's been linked with moves for a while. Spanish left back, but then kind of went off the radar a little bit. Maybe his performances defensively weren't as good. I know going forward, he's very, very talented, very good technical player. Maybe defensively has a few flaws in his game. Maybe that's why he hasn't been able to get the move at 26 now. And Sosa has been talked about a lot in this window, along with Kostic and players like this that could move from the Bundesliga. So it will be interesting to see. But I think Sosa will definitely be available for a lot less than Cucurella. So it wouldn't surprise me if they go for another target. However, we do know Cucurella is desperate, absolutely desperate. I don't know if he's handed in a transfer request. I just seen that in the comments. If that is confirmed, I wouldn't be surprised, because we have seen that he only wants to join Manchester City. He is obviously desperate to join Manchester City. You don't get many opportunities to go to a Pep Guardiola team in your career. When you have the opportunity, you want to take it. So it's no surprise that he is busting the gut to get out. Whether the move gets done, for him, you'd almost hope so, because he will be very annoyed all season if he can't get that move, I'm sure. But we shall see how it goes. Apparently, Ronaldo was linked with Arsenal as well. He's definitely been linked with a lot of different European top teams over the last few years. But I haven't heard about his name for a few years. I definitely remember him maybe 3-4 years ago when he was a lot younger. He was definitely spoken about a lot. Scored some wonderful screamers, definitely in that Portuguese league. I've seen some highlights, but I haven't heard about him for a while. So he's gone a little bit off the grid. I don't know what's been happening with him. I haven't been following him too closely, but he has been linked with Manchester City, I guess, as maybe, an option behind maybe a Sosa or someone. Let's take a look at some of the comments before we move on. Let's see. Fabrizio Romano just confirmed. Okay, so he just confirmed the transfer request. So that's potentially what's going on here, is that, Manchester City are playing their hand. They know the player really, really, really wants to join. So it makes sense to potentially, say that you're no longer going after the player, say that you're getting frustrated, and publicly put that out there, put it into the atmosphere, and see if Cucurella hands in the transfer request, which he now has. And then once that's done, then now Brighton, let's see what their response is. Are they going to be forced to sell? Are they going to be forced to, allow a player to make a move on? I think with this situation, as great as Cucurella has been, I wouldn't I wouldn't say to Brighton, you should die on this hill. I don't think you should, dig your heels in too hard over a left back, because I think the left back market is quite strong. There are definitely players out there that you can go for. You could make a profit here. You're a good team. You're well coached. I think your system is more superior than any individual. Yes, he's been brilliant, but you probably have to sacrifice the fact that you are going to lose him at some point if he keeps playing to that level. Obviously, you don't want to let go of your best players, but I don't think it's going to stop. I don't think it's going to, make them relegation candidates if they did. As long as they replace him properly, I think they can still do what they do this season to a decent degree. But I'm just seeing it now. I'll read it out. Fabrizio has just tweeted. Cucurella has just handed in a transfer request at Brighton. No agreement between Manchester City on the price. Negotiations are difficult, but ongoing. Final decision on club's side expected soon, as there's still a big gap in valuation. So I think Manchester City is slowly filtering out that they will move on to other targets if they can't agree a fee. And that's probably been put into the camp of Cucurella, and then he's understood, and his agent, and they've made the decision that they need to put in a transfer request if they are to get the move done. And there's no real surprise that he's done that, because at the end of the day, no disrespect to Brighton, but listen, this is an opportunity to go to Manchester City. You grab that with both hands and you force that move, really, if you have to, because that may never come again. That opportunity may never come again. And I think he knows going to Manchester City, he will be a starter. Like I said, maybe, yes, Cancelo will be getting some of those games at left back, maybe a little bit of rotation, but you've got an opportunity to be a real cemented starter at left side, because they don't have any option like you who can overlap the way he does. So yeah, it's definitely a move that suits him and makes sense for him. So he's got to push that and get that done. There are some brilliant quotes coming out from Laporta that we'll read out as well later on in the show. So I'm looking forward to that. I love the drama. The presidents at Barcelona, whether it be Laporta or Perez, is just at this point great entertainment for us all. So let's keep it moving. Everton have approached their former midfielder there, Gueye from PSG, 32-year-old Senegalese midfielder, with talks set to continue over the next few days. So obviously he made the move to PSG from Everton, and now maybe out of favour, not playing too many games. Now they're looking to potentially bring him back. That's been reported as well by Fabrizio. So interesting, and we shall see how that progresses. I think Everton's midfield is a weird one, because they've got, Allen, Decore, James Rodriguez. That was kind of like the trio that they had under Ancelotti. They had the 10 position with James Rodriguez. He was brilliant to watch. Really, really good to watch. I really enjoyed the good spell that James Rodriguez was having at Everton. But then, of course, Carlo Ancelotti leaves. That manager pool's gone, and then he goes off into the distance, into obscurity. So it's an interesting one. And yes, I see Bernardo at Barca. We'll definitely talk about that a little bit as well, because apparently they want to put forward an 80 million. I think I've seen an 80 million euro bid, but I have no idea. Again, I'm not going to say this again, but my God, if they close that, then wow. I prefer not to speak. I really do prefer not to speak. Let's see what's being said in the comments. You watched Big Six last night. Really enjoyed it. Big up. It was wild. And it's funny because I didn't have any energy, but it was brought out of me, unfortunately. I was triggered. Let's see. Was Fofana who broke his leg? Yes. So Fofana, had a leg break there in the season. So, and he just did sign a new contract for 2027. So yeah, like I said earlier on, it would be surprising if they're able to get a deal done. But if you are getting a deal done, it's because you're spending an absolute truckload on the player. Big up Ames in the comments. So yeah, if you're getting Fofana, it's going to be for quite a lot. Leicester are tough negotiators. I know, Chill was at a bit of a cut price, but they also sold Maguire for quite a lot. So it really just depends on the actual situation, how highly they rate the player in their team. I think Fofana at centre back is a big player for them. Fullbacks, I don't think value as high as centre backs for me. Centre back is a very critical area that, if you get the right one, like a Van Dijk at Liverpool, it can change the landscape of your entire defense. I think fullbacks, listen, they are important in the game, but I feel like the fullback market is not poor. I definitely feel like there's a lot, so that may dictate, the price a little bit. There are other options, as you can see. Manchester City have no problem walking away from a player as talented as Cucurella. I think when you look at the centre back market, it's not as strong, and it's a lot more intense in terms of making sure that you get the right target. So I think that may dictate a little bit as to why someone like Fofana may cost so much money. Whereas fullbacks, you definitely feel like if you miss out on a fullback, I don't feel like it's the end of the world. As long as you scouted, you've done your due diligence, you'll probably find somebody else. Ronaldo's representatives have held talks with Sporting Lisbon. This is according to The Athletic. Interesting. I mean, let's see, because that obviously is a step down. It would be certainly a humbling move, but it would be a full circle move. And for me, the move that makes the most sense for him in his career, makes the most sense in my opinion. So I would actually like to see it, because I think you go to Sporting, you get back to winning ways, you can go for the title, and you do the full circle and you go back to your club that you started at. And for me, that's better than joining a rival of Manchester United or joining a rival of Real Madrid. Maybe taints your career slightly in terms of your prestige at those clubs. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't, but why run the risk? Again, what are you risking coming to a Chelsea? Or from your perspective, what are you really gaining is what I've always asked. You're not really gaining much. You're gaining Champions League football. You're certainly not gaining titles right now, and you're not gaining probably a Champions League title either. So I'm not really sure what the actual point is, in my opinion there. I think it's much smarter to do the full circle and, just, set off into the sunset a little bit, but still competitive. The Portuguese league is looking good at the moment. There's been a lot of talent taken out of it this summer, a lot. But clearly there's been a lot of talent being produced there as well. So, if you're going to, if Europe's top clubs are going to take players out of that league, we can't go then and disrespect it. It doesn't make any sense. So I think personally, if you're leaving Manchester United, that's the move, or just stay at Manchester United for one more summer and then go to Sporting Lisbon. But to keep hopping around year after year, chasing this, whatever you deem to be right now in your career success, I think you're potentially wasting your time. I would personally either stay put or just finalize it up. But let's go to our next story, which is Nuno Tavares, which he will undergo a medical with Marseille today. And it's agreed loan deal for the Arsenal Portuguese left back. Now, this is also from Fabrizio. The player definitely had a few moments last season where he struggled. There was moments where I watched him and I thought, wow, turning over the ball a bit, defensively looking a little bit mad. But he's still young. And maybe Arsenal are just saying, listen, we're going to loan you out. We're going to send you out on loan. Go and develop. And there's no reason why you still can't come back and potentially, get into this team in a few years, or even next summer if you have a great year. Look at Saliba; he had an incredible year. I think when it comes to Tavares, his position at Arsenal is not finished for him if he continues to improve, because you've got Zinchenko, who's not really a left back but can play left back. You've got Tierney, who's very injury prone. So it's not like as if it's not like as if you have no position at the football club. It's not like they've blocked your path, but they've also said to you, listen, you need to improve, or we may just go and get someone else next season. If Tierney doesn't fix his fitness and we have to get rid, then we may just go and buy someone. But we're going to give you a loan. I don't think there's an obligation to buy on it. Maybe not even an option to buy. I think it's just a straight loan. And then if you do well, maybe you can come back. But we'll see. He has to have that season first. But he's gone to the same club that Saliba was at. And Saliba had a brilliant year, so we shall see. Maybe Arsenal are thinking now that Marseille may be the team to improve defenders for them and get them ready for the first team. They have a good relationship. Marseille have also begun talks reportedly with Alexis Sanchez, another former Arsenal player, 33-year-old Chilean from Inter Milan. That's according to Liquid. Now, listen. I love this player. I really do. I don't think, obviously, he's nowhere near where he was, but Alexis Sanchez, for me, if you're talking about Alexis Sanchez in his prime, he is literally what every single manager right now in the attacking final third would want in the modern era. Like, he's perfect. If you take Alexis Sanchez in his prime, what he was doing at Arsenal, the game at Olympic Stadium, I think against West Ham, correct me if I'm wrong. If you take prime Alexis Sanchez and you put him in this current day and age in football, I think you're commanding 100 million plus, 110, 120, because he's literally exactly what you want, because he's durable. Well, he was durable in his prime, skillful, good finisher, hard worker, no drama. He's literally exactly what, everybody in the top of the game right now looks for when they look for forwards. So yeah, what a player, man. And unfortunately, he didn't have as much success trophy-wise in the Premier League as you would have wished. Obviously, he went to Manchester United and that completely fell on his ass. But I really rate Sanchez, man. He was a brilliant player. He wasn't as good as Hazard. Let's not do that. Hazard was still the best, but Alexis Sanchez was good. He was a good second if you're talking about wingers. That's what I would give him. I would give him that. But I'm not going to put him ahead of Hazard. Let's not be silly. You always have to take it too far. You always got to take it too far. Yeah, see, look, you're running with it now, and you've got lost. You took it too far, and now you're in the wilderness. You're in the wilderness. All right, so let's move on to our next story. We've got a lot to get through, so we ain't going to waste no time. West Ham continuing talks with Frankfurt for signing Kostic, the wing back or left winger. Can he play left back? I'm not too sure. I think his attacking credentials are definitely his assets. So if you're going to play him, you'd either play him at left wing back or maybe at left wing. However, we'll see. Maybe they have plans to play him at left back instead of Cresswell. But he is also qualified for the Champions League football for Frankfurt. So that is why it will be difficult to convince him to come down to the Conference League 2 tiers below. But definitely West Ham can pay him more. And he's only on 1 year left with Frankfurt. If I was to make a little prediction with this one, I have a feeling it might not go through for the sheer fact that he's only got 1 year left on his contract. His contract expires in 2023. Then he has to pick of all clubs if he continues to keep up his form. And he is 29, so it is his last big move. And I think for the quality that he's shown, he will probably aim and aspire to go a little bit above West Ham and try and at least go to a Champions League level team. I think he's shown he can do that. He will be an absolute bargain on a free. He's an absolute bargain now. I'm quite surprised nobody's going in for him in terms of bigger clubs. And I think he may just sit for 1 season at Frankfurt in the Champions League football and then maybe go on a free. I'd be surprised if he makes that move to West Ham, considering I do think there's a ceiling at West Ham of, yeah, you can definitely continue to be in the positions you were in, but can you go to that next level of playing in the Champions League like Leicester did? It's going to be very, very difficult, because right now, the top 6 clubs actually are starting to pattern themselves. Like, they're actually starting to get good managers in who can actually, set down philosophies and whatnot. Conte, Ten Hag, they're actually starting to take things seriously now. If this was a moment where I was looking at the top 6 clubs and they were messing about a bit and they were having the Ollies and whatnot, the rookies, then I'd be like, okay, fair enough. But I think right now it's probably a bad time to try and break in to the top 6. Tottenham will try to beat Juventus to a transfer for Zidane at Roma. that's an interesting one, the Italian forward. Tottenham is still looking for that creative midfielder, so you can understand maybe where that's coming from. And yes, we've mentioned Koundé already. Don't worry about it. But yeah, I think they're still looking for that creative forward. They certainly need a centre back as well, but they are looking for that creative forward. The Madison links have kind of dialed down a little bit, so not really too surprised. But again, until we see an official bid, there's not really too much to say on that one. Just a small link coming out of the Italian press on that one. But this is another one that's coming out of the Spanish press, and this, I guess, makes sense. You know, Barcelona interested in Reguilón from Tottenham as well, if they're unable to bring in Marcos Alonso. Now, Reguilón, for me, I think he could go back to Spain and do very well. I don't think he's in the mud. I don't think he's finished. You know, he's only had that poor season at Tottenham. Maybe he just didn't acclimatise. Maybe personally this wasn't the right setting for him. The country just didn't adapt, whatever. There's not too many Spanish internationals that I can think of in that Tottenham team. So maybe he just didn't gel. He didn't feel at home. There's many reasons personally as to why he may not have, you know, sparked into life, kicked into gear. I think he's still a very good player. Still only 25. And I think if he was to go back to his native Spain in a Barcelona team that right now on the pitch is looking pretty incredible, I think he'd do well. And if I'm to take my Chelsea hat off of trying to move Marcos Alonso on, I think Reguilón is a better move for Barcelona than Marcos Alonso. Absolutely, no doubts about it. Reguilón is actually a left back for starters, so he can play in that back four. He's quicker, he's much faster. So if you're looking at profile-wise, he's a lot closer to what a Jordi Alba would be than a Marcos Alonso. Not that he's anywhere near Jordi Alba, of course, but at least he's quick and has a bit of pace and can overlap. So I would say that makes sense for Barcelona. He's not expensive as well. He's not going to be expensive. Tottenham are trying to throw him out the door, trying to push him out the door. And they've made an inquiry, so we shall see. We shall see. Let's see what else is on the list as well. I mean, Newcastle with Trippier, he's just said that he could have joined Manchester United last summer. We already knew about that. Opting to leave Atletico Madrid for in January to go to Newcastle. We already knew that, Kevin. But thanks for the extra insight. AC Milan and Roma keeping tabs on Manchester United centre back Eric Bailly as well. Another player that is probably available. That's reported by the Athletic. And again, just hammered by injuries, absolutely hammered by injuries. I've never seen I mean, I have seen players this unlucky, but he is another one that falls into the category, just cannot stay fit consistently. So I don't really know where Bailly really ranks, how good he is, because I just don't get to see him consistently enough. You know, he's brought in as somebody with a lot of promise, and I never really was able to judge him because he's just always injured. So maybe Man United fans will tell me, is he, you know, what level he's at? He's probably not worth keeping. You know, you definitely look to cash in because he keeps getting injured. So there's no point keeping an injury-prone player. But it's a shame for sure that we haven't really been able to see him consistently in that defense to see what he's capable of. But that's the way it goes, unfortunately. We know that Arsenal are trying to offload Bernd Leno. We mentioned that yesterday. Pablo Mari and Hector Bellerin are also on that list as well. Bellerin was out on loan last season with Real Betis, and obviously, you know, Pablo Mari has fallen down the pecking order since Saliba's come into the squad. So expect movement on those two players. You would hope, if you're an Arsenal fan, that those two start to make moves as well, because you don't want to have a bloated squad. I know you need depth, but there's definitely unhealthy competition as well. If you have too many players, then they can have a little, you know, unsettling vibe in the dressing room, and you don't want that. Let's see what some of the comments are saying quickly before we keep it moving. Depay to Chelsea. I mean, I haven't seen anything concrete out there, but it is something that I've tweeted about just this morning. It's something that I wanted to bring up to see what people's opinions were. I'm sure maybe some people will cook me. I am certainly not going to tell you that it's an exciting link. It's not an exciting story if we go for him, but I do think it's in some ways quite sensible with Depay, because I do feel like, first of all, you have to realize that the market is coming to a close. There is only 1 month left. I was hoping of the Gnabry's and the Sanés if they were going to move, the Rafinhas, the Dembeles. You know, I like all of these players, but they're not going anywhere, or they've already gone where they want to go. So then you have to start looking at you know, the next best, and Depay is available. Barcelona are definitely trying to make that exit happen. I'm not even saying that you purchase him, even though he's quite cheap. He's only 15, 16, 17 million. Barcelona are probably in quite a weak negotiating position in terms of Depay and certain players that they're trying to let go, because there doesn't seem to be a queue of teams actually going for these players. Although we have seen links to the Premier League for Depay already, no official contact has been made. And I think that, if Chelsea go for him, even on a loan deal with an option to buy, let's try and, be that club that are a little bit more smart as well. We don't have to invest in Depay, give him a 3-year contract. We have a little bit of a risk. Maybe he doesn't, take it seriously. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't come here and want to light it up. But you could definitely take him on a loan and see how the market looks next summer. The attacking market right now is a bit lackluster. It's a little bit underwhelming. And I think because of that, if you go for someone like Depay, you just cover yourself a little bit in that central striker role with Kai, who is definitely not guaranteed success. You hope he does the business, but he's not a guarantee. Amanda Broja, 6 Premier League goals last season. Again, a player I would keep, but not a guaranteed success. If you get Depay, Depay only has 1 year left. Okay, sorry, apologies. So Depay only has 1 year left on his contract. So maybe you do then need to go. Maybe you then definitely need to go and buy him. But in that case, then you really just have to, in my opinion, you just have to just pay a very small fee. I don't really feel like he's going to be expensive. I think the quote was around about 20 million. So he's not expensive, and he's interchangeable. He's technical. He's a very good striker of the ball. He was actually quite good under Koeman. And obviously they've brought in loads of new attackers now. And they're understandably very excited, and he's just fallen to the wayside. But when he's at his best, he probably starts for Chelsea, and I have no problem even saying that. You'd probably play him up front as the striker, at his best, because he brings certain things that we don't have. Good finishing technique, seems to be quite confident actually taking it with both feet. Good close control. He doesn't mind holding up the ball as well. He's a little bit physical. And he's, like I said, he's got good control, decent in tight spaces. And like I said, he can occupy other positions. He can play a little bit to the left, or if need be. So he doesn't directly block a Broja. He doesn't directly block a Kai from playing up front, but he definitely gives you an option to use up front if those two are not delivering the goods, which I have probably no doubts that at some point in the season, they will not be on form and we will need somebody else. And that could be the difference between top 4 and 5th, getting somebody like that in who maybe just gives you 12 to 15 Premier League goals if he's a constant starter, or maybe 10 to 12 goals if he's rotational. That could be the difference. So yeah, there's no actual link there, but yeah, there's somebody said it in the comments. I did put out a tweet about it. I didn't realize it was his last year. I should have really actually known that, to be fair. It makes sense that it is his last year. He did sign maybe 3 or 4 seasons ago, or did he get a 3-year contract or something like that? Let me know in the comments. But yeah, it makes sense then as to why they are looking to offload with a year left. But he's not available. He's not going to be expensive. So it's not even that you only have to get him as a forward. You can go and get somebody else. Also, Roma and PSG will be again in direct talks for Wijnaldum in the next few hours, days. Mourinho wants Gini Wijnaldum. The relationship with Campos is very good, but agreement on salary still needed. Gini waiting for clubs as he's ready to accept. So that's another situation that we spoke about yesterday that is slowly, hopefully moving along. Wijnaldum is a weird one. He left Liverpool and now at PSG, it just hasn't quite worked out. He's still a good player, but I definitely think Klopp took him to another level. He put him on a pedestal, and I don't think he was, Galactico PSG level, so to speak. But I did think he'd bring balance to their midfield, but it hasn't worked out. Barcelona will push again for Cesar Azpilicueta in the next couple of days as well. Barcelona move, but he's going to be professional with Chelsea, so depends on the two clubs now. Obviously, Jules Koundé confirmed, so that's their next target. Barcelona are just going for everybody, man. They're still going for more players. It's crazy. Obviously, Everton will take a sell-on fee clause from Lookman, who's about to leave RB Leipzig as well. So keep an eye on. Maybe that will push Everton to start making some more deals. We know they just signed a player from Burnley, a second player from Burnley, but we shall see if anything else happens there. And if you're interested, Lo Celso also is available for around about 17 million. And he's been offered out this summer with Villarreal. Fiorentina having shown interest in the Argentinian midfielder. So that's another player that Tottenham are trying to get rid of. And yeah, it seems like there is a potential there for a move. Before we wrap up, there's poll results as well. Fofana, the right signing for Chelsea, yes, 60%, no, 40% poll has been completed. Interesting to see that split. It's not as one-sided as I thought it would be. I thought people would maybe go more towards the yes, but again, I think that injury that we spoke about earlier on the show, that leg break, is potentially why that 40% is there, and understandably so. I think it is a little bit of a gamble. I think it depends on the price. He is a very, very talented defender, so you know it is a very good player. But I do think it's a little bit. It's a panic buy in a sense, because he's clearly not the first choice. He's clearly, you know, way back in the pecking order if you look at all the players that Chelsea have been linked to in centre back position. But at the same time, you can see logically why it would make sense to go for a talented young player like that. But it is a little bit of a panic one, and for sure, the injury is a bit of a worry. Foot golf. Yeah, I mean, listen, guys, it's coming out tomorrow. If you haven't seen the interviews, have come out as well. I know you guys keep mentioning in the comments, you know, just I can't wait to see you guys on Sunday. I'll be back on Sunday, I'm sure, for the transfer show. I'm looking forward to chatting with you guys when the first few episodes drop, because I can just see what's going to be like in the comments. I can't wait. But let's see anything else. Let's see any other comments. I don't want to talk about foot golf, man. No more foot golf convo. But the foot golf does come out on Saturday, so I will answer your question. Let's see. Better to sign in DD than Fofana. This will be the last thing I talk about. I personally, and a lot of people say this as well, I personally wouldn't want in DD, because very good defensive midfielder, very good at tackling, great interceptions, great recoveries, great covering the space, great shielding off the ball. But on the ball, for me, not good enough in possession. Too many turnovers, not really press resistant. And in any team at the top that wants to play with the ball, Ndidi for me cannot be your anchor. I've seen him turn over the ball many a time. We've even done it. I think Mason Mount's first Premier League goal was actually from an Ndidi turnover at Stamford Bridge. I personally don't want a 6 in my team that isn't comfortable on the ball, that can't create those triangles, that can't play those passes, that isn't press resistant. And I think that's why you're potentially seeing that he hasn't actually made that step up. He is coming towards the end of his contract in 2024. So it'll be interesting to see if he can I think he needs to have a big season this season. And then with 1 year left, he may get a big move to a team that suits him. But I personally wouldn't want him in my team. I think you are solving situations and issues defensively, but then you are creating problems in possession. So you're kind of causing your own problems there in a sense. You're certainly solving a few issues, but you're certainly causing issues as well. But we're going to wrap up. It's been a great show, a little bit extra longer one, this one here. But absolute pleasure chatting to you as always. Make sure you smash up the like, subscribe to DR Sports as you should. I'll be back tomorrow on the watch along for the Manchester City game in the Community Shield against Liverpool. So I'm really looking forward to that. And yeah, I'll be hosting that, it would seem. And yeah, until then, I'll see you guys in a bit. Big up your damn selves. Peace.